Okay, thank you for waiting, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to take up any more of your very valuable time. First off, I want to thank you for joining me on this somewhat gloomy Friday morning, although it is nice to have the weather under control for a little bit. What are we talking about today? Like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we are starting a bit of a series about safer workplaces. So today we're talking about air pollution monitoring, indoor and outdoor air quality, and the types of monitoring and alarm systems that you can implement that keep people safe. So let's get started. Let's talk about our agenda for today. We are going to talk about OSHA air quality standards and recommendations. We're going to talk about indoor air quality and how that affects employee health. Then we're going to look at a case study for our air quality monitoring and alarm system. Look at how that's structured, and then look at our components and software that make up that system. So and then at the end, we are going to close as always with our Q&A session. I have Robert here. Yes, I have. Actually, it looks like I have both Robert and Steve here to answer some of your more technical questions. And I would ask that you please wait until the end of the presentation to ask those. But if you think of one along the way, please feel free to enter it into the Q&A box, which you will see on your Zoom control bar. Make sure to enter it into the Q&A box and not the chat box, because we won't be checking the chat box, only checking the Q&A box. Also, if you want to ask a question during the Q&A session, please raise your hand, also through the Zoom interface, and we will answer you, and you can answer on mic if you so prefer. But, and then, and of course, at the end, we're going to announce the winners of this month's raffle. So, if this is your first time joining us, we are ICP-DAS USA. ICP-DAS, that is our headquarters, was established in 1993. They are headquartered in Hsinchu, Taiwan. ICP-DAS USA, that's us, was launched in 2001, and we are located in Lomita, California. We have over 200 R&D engineers, and we work closely with them to develop new products and to support our customers. Most of our products are RoHS compliant, meaning they are lead free. We're also ISO 9001 certified here in the US, SGS certified in the UK, and we are a Windows embedded partner. So moving right along, before we get into this, I want to define who I'm speaking to, or to whom I'm speaking. So when I think about the industries that would make for potentially hazardous air quality, that would be oil, gas, mineral extraction, refineries and smelting, chemical plants, and heavy industry. Now, certainly, if you are responsible for managing or planning any of those facilities, this talk is for you. But I would also like to address landlords, building managers, campus facilities managers, and anyone else working in high occupancy buildings that are subject to a lot of use and a lot of different environmental factors over a long period of time. You might be surprised to learn that, according to California's Division of Occupational Safety and Health, the majority of workplace complaints about indoor air quality come from workers in non-industrial environments. And there's a certain logic to that, I think. Industries that work with hazardous materials every day have the incentive money and the personnel to design and implement effective ventilation systems that school administrators and managers might not have, for instance. So paradoxically, employees at workplaces considered to be less hazardous may actually suffer a higher risk without the proper monitoring or the proper ventilation in place. So today we are talking about workplace air quality monitoring. The first thing I'll say is that standards for indoor workplace air quality are actually a little hairy. As of this presentation, there are no national standards for workplace air quality, but I am going to talk specifically about air quality regulations in California, where we are located, and it's also one of the states where there are official regulations in place, and a state with historically stringent workplace protections. And that's because for those of you outside of California, You are still held liable for providing a safe workplace under 1970's Occupational Safety and Health Act, and specifically under the General Provision Clause of that act. Even if there are no specific regulations in your state, you can still be subject to official complaints, workplace comp claims, personal injury, and class action lawsuits. Furthermore, if you do choose to pursue a workplace air pollution monitoring system in an unregulated state, it may behoove you to build it to California's specifications, for the same reason that businesses around the country have started to follow California's lead in terms of environmental and energy efficiency regulations. In addition to indoor air quality requirements, which again vary by state, but it's best to err on the side of caution. There are federal level, there are federal level EPA requirements regulating ambient air quality from major stationary sources. So let's briefly go over these requirements now. Since there are no specific regulations on air quality at the national level, suits and complaints pertaining to air quality fall under the Occupational Safety and Health Act's Section 5, the General Duty Clause, which stipulates that employers shall furnish to each, and I'm quoting, furnish to each of his employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his employees, unquote. Which seems like a high bar, but if you have employees breathing asbestos or mold or CO2 in your otherwise unassuming office building, you can certainly be held liable for those long-term health effects. Specifically, California's Title 8 provides concrete standards for what are acceptable and unacceptable levels of airborne compounds. There is an exhaustive list that you can read if you are interested, and I can send you a link to that if you will email us, I should say, at sales@icp-usa.com after the presentation if you are interested. Also, you can just look up Title 8's, California's Title 8's hazardous chemical or airborne compounds table. And if you're interested, our contact information is going to be at the end, so we can send you links to more info. But to give you a very rough idea, though, the table provides a permissible exposure limit for a long list of compounds. The permissible exposure limit is the concentration of aerosol compounds, the average of which cannot be exceeded over an 8-hour time period. So, for instance, the permissible exposure limit of CO2 is a ppm, that's part per million, of 5,000. For carbon monoxide, that limit is a ppm of 25. And for methane, that is a ppm of 20. So the particulate concentration may not exceed an average of those limits over an 8-hour period. There's also a short-term exposure limit, which covers 15-minute periods in which the exposure levels may not exceed a certain number. But on a national level, the Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Air Act stipulate requirements for ambient air quality, which are called National Ambient Air Quality Standards. These standards provide ppm limits for both 8 and 1 hour averages in ambient air quality surrounding static sites, i.e., refineries, extraction sites, construction sites, etc. The EPA regulates particulate concentrations of 6 key pollutants, and that is carbon monoxide, lead, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, particle pollution, and sulfur dioxide. And so this table, this is just from the EPA's website, and it's giving you an example of the limits, the acceptable limits for both the 8-hour average and the 1-hour averages for the 6 key pollutants. So, taking measurements and keeping track of your air quality levels over time, both indoor and outdoor, is an excellent way to avoid fines, personal injury suits, and class action suits. But it's more than OSHA requirements. It's a culture of workplace safety, employee satisfaction, productivity, health, and retention. Air quality monitoring can also tell you when something is going wrong, so you can react in time to get employees to safety and then fix the problem. Furthermore, healthy workers are happy workers. If you take some simple steps to improve quality of life now, you invest in increased productivity while heading off those workers' comps claims, PI suits, labor complaints, etc. Hopefully, by now, you can see that monitoring air quality in the workplace is important. But what are you supposed to do about it? Well, I think you can guess that we do have an answer for that, and that's an air pollution monitoring and alarm system. So this is just one example of how this equipment can be applied. It's a case study. It comes from a solution we put together for a customer in the oil and gas industry. So this is a very rough diagram of the, or that's not rough. It looks nice. It's a very general diagram of the air pollution monitoring and alarm system that we put together. So the system uses the I 87017 RCW to monitor the air pollutant concentration and provides 24-hour monitoring. The data will be recorded every 30 seconds to a daily file. In order for the monitoring system to be installed outdoors, we're using the I8212W-3GWA to connect through a wireless. That is a 3G internet access and to send periodic reports by email or FTP server. When an alert is triggered, the system will text messages to related workers to carry out the outlined procedures. So generally, so what we're looking at is one of our WinPack modules. And this is a programmable automation controller. It's a sort of a cross between an industrial PC and a PLC. It's meant to be very hardy and reliable, especially this model, which was used outdoors. And this WinPack model comes with 8 I/O slots. And the two that we're talking about today are the I8212W-3GWA, which is, in addition to a mouthful, that is the 3G communication module. So you can connect to the internet. You can send, you can schedule reports and send SMS messages with that. And then the I87017 RCW is an analog input module, and that's what we're actually using to take measurements from the air quality sample, the vacuum pump air quality sample machine. In addition to that, it is a fully functional in industrial controller, so it has lots of room to connect. So if you want more direct I/O, it has lots of room for more I/O slots. You can also connect it over Ethernet and or RS-45, I believe, on this module, to other remote I/O modules in the system. For instance, temperature, CO2, and leakage detection sensors. So in addition to being the air quality monitoring and alarm system, this is also meant to be the brain of a lot of other industrial functions. And of course, one of the main advantages of our packs is that they can multitask. They have enough processing to do a lot of different processes all at once. So, but let's go back to talking about the air quality monitoring system and its functions. So the first, the function of the air quality monitoring system is divided into 6 parts. The first 2 are cleaning and calibration. So the WinPack controls an automatic cleaning function. So before using a sampling bag, to describe the, you can kind of see in this picture, which I've pulled from another application, the chamber. And in the specific application that we're talking about, the chamber is actually a bag that you fill with your sample of air. But first, that bag needs to be cleaned. So before using a sampling bag, all the air must be extracted in order to keep a vacuum. And then you will use nitrogen or pure air to wash the bag so that you can get a clean sample. Before cleaning, users need to set up the volume of the sampling bag and pump speed. The system will use them to calculate the required cleaning time. And then second, is calibration. So before sampling, the user is required to set up a proper flow rate and permissible exposure limit for pollutants according to the analytical method used to analyze the air. In addition, the calibration page provides the daily timing, calibration settings, calibration coefficients, and average values display in error tolerance value settings. The system will send a short message to related workers when the error tolerance value is over the limit. So the next function is actually taking a sample, and you can see in this photo an example of what these the air quality sampling systems actually look like. So 3, sampling. So while the WinPack provides the high-level trigger function, which means it will automatically monitor the air when the detected value is over the limit, users can also turn off this feature and press the manual sampling button to take a manual sample. In addition, it allows to set up the sampling time, display or set up the sampling bag number, display the current air concentration, and to set up a short message and configure the, stopped my slideshow. That's okay. Oh, yeah, you can, where were we? Oh, that's right. You also use the WinPack to establish your SMS messages and which cell phone numbers you send that to. You can also use the WinPack to actually control the functions of the air, of the vacuum pump air sampling system. So other functions provided by this system are FTP status, email alerts, and other setup. So the FTP status, you can send and receive and view the status of short messages over the 3G wireless network or FTP connection. You can see FTP status and FTP file upload progress, and also set up you can also schedule an FTP upload time for a daily report. You can also send emails, send email alerts, display connection time or status, set up the number of emails and which emails you want to send it to, and other setup. We provide a configuration page, user access control, and of course the set up the controls, the 3-way valve and pump switch settings that are used for cleaning and sampling procedures. So that should be a pretty good example of an outdoor air quality monitoring system as an integrated part of a much larger data acquisition and industrial automation system. But what if that's overkill for you? What if that is, or if it's just not an application that's relevant to your needs? Well, we also provide a number of easier to use, more out of the box solutions for measuring environmental quality. So what we're looking at here is a very simple example of a this carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and particle pollution monitoring system in an indoor car park, someplace where it would be very important to keep track of those things, but you may not have the personnel to program a WinPack, or you may not even have the data infrastructure in place, which is why these what we're looking at are the CL modules. They communicate over Ethernet, serial, or Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi being very useful in this particular application. So this one is a perfect example for parking structures, office buildings, and home. Like I said, you can monitor it through serial, Ethernet, or Wi-Fi. I can also pair it with SCADA or an MQTT server if you need remote access. Another example of the options we have is a greenhouse monitoring system, and this application uses some very similar models, but slightly different. They are the DL100 and the DL302 modules. What they do is they monitor temperature, humidity, dew point, and carbon monoxide And they're very flexible in terms of operator use. You could monitor them locally, remotely, and on unit. So these units provide, the DL100 provides an LCD display, which will display current temperature, humidity, or dew point. And the DL302 provides an integrated touchscreen display. And as you can see in the diagram in the lower left-hand corner, it is giving you in this instance, the 302 is measuring carbon monoxide, but we also have modules that will measure carbon dioxide. But this one is just showing you, as you can see, the progression from a safe level to an unsafe level. So this is a perfect solution for greenhouse, agriculture, lab, or industrial applications. And again, you can pair it with SCADA or an MQTT server for not just for data logging, but also for remote access and allowing many users to view the data. So let's talk a little bit about system components. The biggest one in the air quality monitoring system is the WP8849-1500. It's the brain of the system, and with the included 1500 tag Indusoft license, it's capable of being the brain for a lot of other processes as well. This is a Windows CE 5.0 embedded programmable automation controller with 8 slots for expandable I/O modules. This version of the module comes with Indusoft Runtime pre-installed and a license for up to 1,500 tags. So in this solution, the air quality monitoring system is just one part of a much larger data acquisition and automation system. This module comes with a 520 megahertz processor, 128 megabytes of RAM, and 16 gigabyte SD memory card, all told a fairly substantial industrial computer in an extremely hardy and reliable package. Again, with enough expandable I/O to capture quite a bit of sensor data and computing data to log it all while automating various processes, including your air pollution monitoring and alarm system. So a pretty versatile, powerful, and rugged device. Note the important components, as we mentioned before, the I8212W-3GA is an industrial tri-band 3G module. This module utilizes a 2G and 3G network for data transfer from remote instruments, meters, computers, or control systems in either live data or packet data. In this case, it's being used to send SMS, FTP, and email updates from the remote air quality system. The other slot I/O module that we talked about was the I87017 RCW. It's an 8-channel current input module that is specifically designed to measure current only. It has 8 differential channels, and thanks to its built-in resistor, you can measure the current directly. It's also suitable for harsh environments since it has 4 kilovolt ESD protection and a plus and minus 200 volt DC common voltage as current input protection. Also features 3000 volt DC intermodule isolation together with open wire detection for 4 to 20 milliamp input. So the sampling rate for this module is adjustable, meaning that you can either use a fast or normal mode. So in addition, this is the module that actually takes measurements from the vacuum pump system. But with the 8 differential channels, you can also use it for a number of other sensor readings. And the module that we mentioned, so the module that I mentioned for the indoor, for the parking garage application, they're all from the CL210 series. So the CL200 series are a flexible and easy to use environmental data logger and alarm sensor that come in this convenient package that looks like and is about the size of a household smoke detector. They communicate over RS-485, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi, not all in the same module, but different modules in the family communicate in a combination of those 3. They combine multiple sensors with a data logger, so you can connect them directly to an HMI to get instant readings, a PC, or a building automation network over Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and you can connect them to your MQTT server to make them cloud accessible, to integrate them into your IoT or IIoT platform. And I think this makes them a great, easy to use solution for indoor air quality. It's nice to have the sensors and the data logger all bundled together. So you really just need to connect them to a controller to start getting readings. And the MQTT accessibility makes them very versatile. The other products that I mentioned in the greenhouse automation are the DL100 and the DL302. So the DL series are a series that combine sensors, data loggers, and display into these very easy to use packages. So the DL100 includes an LCD display. It measures temperature and humidity, and dew point. Some modules. These are IP66 rated. So again, they are splash resistant, so great for using in a greenhouse or agriculture or any of those outdoor settings. The DL302, you can see on the right, has the color touchscreen interface. It measures temperature, dew point, humidity, and the 302 specifically measures carbon monoxide, but we have other modules that measure carbon dioxide. And that comes with the warning display as well as a configuration pages that you can use through the, I believe it's a 2.8-inch screen, touch screen interface. And one thing that is very nice about the 302 is that as long as you have a cell phone or any device really that is on the same local network as the 302, you can control it and monitor it through an app, and that app is free from ICP-DAS. You can also, with the DL series, you can also communicate over RS-45. We also have Ethernet versions available. DL302 communicates over RS-45 and Ethernet. The 302 also stores, again, these are data loggers, so it stores around 450,000 records, has built-in carbon monoxide alarm with a relay output for your alarm or another indoor air quality device. So you can use it to automatically start your ventilation system or to set off lights, klaxon, something that warning people that CO or CO2 levels have gone beyond acceptable limits. You can also use that relay output to start a fan if humidity or temperature are above or below the levels that you desire. So I wanted to talk quickly about Indusoft. So Indusoft Web Studio is a powerful and integrated SCADA software for providing SCADA functions, obviously, but also for programming HMI devices and embedded instrumentation and control applications. Indusoft Web Studio is used to develop HMI screens, set alarm limits, log data, and set up and trigger alarm notifications if the desired readings are exceeded. So the WinPack module that we talked about comes with Indusoft runtime pre-installed and the 1500 tag license. But if you wanted to integrate, or if you wanted to create your full SCADA system or develop for HMIs, you would need, we would recommend that you get the IND 15520 dev license, which is the development license for server, desktop, and HMI development. So Indusoft is the SCADA software that we sell and the SCADA software that we recommend. But that about wraps it up for my presentation for today. I hope you learned something. Hope it wasn't too dry. I'd like to move into our Q&A session now. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Our information is right here, sales@icp-usa.com. It's our website, toll-free and local phone numbers. Also, please do give us a follow on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, but especially LinkedIn. We are most active there, and it's a great place to see updates from us. And do please tune in for next month's webinar, which is going to be on August 28th. We're going to be, again, talking about workplace safety. We're going to be talking about alarm systems and actually talking about some of the same components, but using them for different applications. So with that said, let's move on to our raffle winners.